My name is Tessa Monroe, and I'm 29 years old. If you ever want to measure the weight of 7 years, stand in the doorway of a place you paid for with your own bones. Mine is a modest two-bedroom on the edge of a quiet park, sun pooling on the hardwood every morning like an offering. The second bedroom is my office. 3 days a week I remote in, headphones on, calendar stacked, bills paid. I say mine with a pride that tastes like metal and mint. Earned, not gifted. I didn't get here by accident. After college, I lived in a studio that could fit inside my current kitchen. I freelanced at night, ate budget noodles, learned to say no to things that glittered and yes to the boring decisions that compound into a life. When the down payment finally cleared 2 years ago, I cried alone on the floor, cheeks salty against the cool wood. It wasn't fancy, but it was the first time a door closed behind me and nobody else had a key. At least, that's what I believed then. My younger sister, Mia Carter, 27, beautiful, restless, has always been the family orbit. Our mom, Diane, calls it spirit. Our dad, Gary, calls it potential. I used to call it luck. Mia dropped out twice and bounced between retail and finding herself. But the emotional calculus in my family always seemed to tilt toward her. When Mia announced 3 weeks ago that she was pregnant, our parents lit up like a string of sparklers. Her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Zach Moreno, is 30 and on the cusp with his band while working part-time at a vape shop. At least that's the story. I was happy for Mia, I truly was. A baby is a beginning, not a verdict. But in my family, beginnings often arrive with invoices addressed to me. It's a Sunday night when the bill drops. Roast chicken, polite wine, that pleasant hum of forks and old stories. I'm halfway through a sip when Mom dabs her napkin and says, sweet as pie, "So, honey, we should talk about the apartment situation." I blink. What apartment situation? Dad doesn't look at me. He looks at Mia's belly, which at 10 weeks is still more hope than shape. Babies need space, Tess, a nursery, a quiet room to grow. You're one person. You don't need 2 bedrooms. The wine goes the wrong way, burning my throat. They are very calm. It's the calm that tells you the decision has been pre-made, somewhere you were not invited. Mom leans forward, fingers laced. Family helps family. Your sister's building isn't ideal. Your neighborhood is perfect. Parks, schools, safety. You can get a cute studio for less. We'll help with the difference sometimes. Mia smiles, a small, satisfied curve, as she rubs a belly that hasn't arrived yet. It'd be so perfect for the baby. In my head, I see my office, the quiet, the order, the little plant that finally decided to trust me. I put the wine down. I'm happy to help you look for a bigger place. I'll even chip in for a deposit, but my apartment is my home. I worked years for it. I'm not giving it up. Mom's mouth trembles. Wow, okay. I didn't realize walls meant more to you than your niece or nephew. Dad sighs as if I'm a spreadsheet he's failed to balance. This is materialism, Tessa. You're making a principle out of a square footage problem. Mia tilts her head, pitying, like a saint in a stained glass window. I always knew you resented me. It's almost funny. I want to laugh, but laughter would be a betrayal of my own heartbeat. I count to 3. I don't resent you. I resent being turned into a solution you don't have to earn. We drive home in separate silences, me to my apartment, them to a group chat that will soon turn into a tribunal. By the next morning, the texts start. Mom forwards think pieces about the village. Dad emails a spreadsheet calculating a single woman's optimal living requirement. An aunt I haven't spoken to since 2019 calls me selfish. Someone starts a Facebook thread that mutates into a Greek chorus. My cousin Paige texts privately. Hey, are you okay? I tell her I will be. That night, I curl into the corner of my couch and call Ryan Hale, my boyfriend. He listens without interrupting, the way he always does. He's good at stillness, good at letting words land. Your no was reasonable, he says finally. Offer support, not sacrifice. They think no means convince me better, I say. Ryan exhales. Then you'll have to teach them what it means. I almost say I'm tired of being the teacher. I don't. We hang up, and I stare at my door for a long time. There is a tiny thought, a splinter. Mom still has the spare key from when I first moved in and was nervous about losing mine. I make a mental note, tomorrow. Tomorrow is late. By Tuesday, Mia has posted a photo of my street, recognizable to anyone who knows me, with a caption about fresh starts and village magic. The comments glow. I report the post. It gets taken down. The screenshots multiply anyway. On Wednesday, an email from the building manager. A caller identifying as your mother asked about a family transfer policy and whether we could add new residents to your lease. We informed her the leaseholder must request any changes. My scalp prickles. I call Mom. She doesn't pick up. I call Dad. Straight to voicemail. I text the family group thread. Do not contact my building. Do not enter my apartment. Boundaries are not aggression. Blue bubbles go gray, then blue again. You've broken your mother's heart, Dad writes. We raised you better than this. Thursday, I wake to a Pinterest notification I didn't ask for. Tessa's apartment nursery ideas. 47 pins, pastel swatches, animal decals, a crib positioned exactly where my reading chair sits now. I scroll through them all until my stomach turns. My hands shake as I make coffee. And then the knock. It's 8:15 a.m. I'm in leggings, laptop open, calendar blocked for a 9 a.m. meeting. Through the peephole, I see Mia and a woman I don't recognize. Mia's holding a folder. The stranger carries a tape measure. I don't open the door. What do you want? 2 minutes, Mia chirps. This is Renee. She's the nursery designer. We have a consult at 8:30. You don't even have to be here. You are not coming in. Mia laughs airy. Come on, Tess. Mom has the key if you're busy. We'll be quick. Something in me goes cold, like a lake freezing from the edges inward. Leave my door, Mia. She sighs, then tries a key. The sound, metal kissing metal, failing to find its home, sends a bright flare of anger through my chest. They jangle through a little bouquet of keys. 10 minutes. 12. Eventually, their footsteps retreat down the hall, and Renee mutters an apology I can't make out. I sit back on the couch and feel my pulse in my teeth. I changed the locks that afternoon. The locksmith is kind. You'd be surprised how often it's family, he says, not looking surprised at all. That night, Mom calls crying. You turned a designer away from your own baby's nursery. My own baby? I repeat. Flat? I don't have one. I have an office. You know what I mean, she snaps, and then her voice breaks again. I don't recognize you, Tessa. Because I said no? I ask. No is not cruelty. It's clarity. By Friday, there's a Facebook event. Help Mia move into her new home. My address in bold, 3 weeks out, 23 people going. I comment from my account. This is my apartment. Mia does not live here and will not be moving in. The event vanishes within the hour. The screenshots remain like footprints in wet cement. Ryan brings over takeout and a stack of dumb comedies. We don't laugh much. He rubs my back while the credits roll and says, You did the right thing. I want that sentence to act like a spell that changes the world. It doesn't. The world is the same in the morning, except for the part of it that isn't mine anymore. The idea that being the reliable one will keep me safe. Saturday is quiet, too quiet. The quiet of a plan forming somewhere else. I clean the office I'm always defending, wipe the dust from the keyboard, water the plant that forgave me. Sun spills across the desk in its patient way, as if to say, You earned this. Don't forget. I won't. I can feel the ground shifting, and I widen my stance. Across town, I imagine tape measures, Pinterest boards, and a group chat zing with a new message. Locksmiths are fast if you pay cash. I don't know that yet. Not fully. What I know is this. The door closes. The deadbolt slides. The air settles. And inside the silence, my phone buzzes with a new text from Dad. We're coming by next week to get started. Please leave the key under the mat. I place the phone face down. I count to 3 again. This time, when I breathe out, it fogs into words that sound like steel. No. There's a thing therapists say about memories. They don't line up like books on a shelf. They scatter like birds. So forgive the jump. Before the lock change, before the Facebook event, there was the ambush that taught me exactly what my family meant by help. It was supposed to be lunch, neutral ground at my place so we could talk like adults. I had quiche in the oven and a playlist humming when I heard the cylinder turn. The cylinder. My body recognized the sound before my brain did. The door swung open and they were suddenly in. Mom, Dad, Mia, and Zach, 45 minutes early, all breeze and smiles, like this was a sitcom with a laugh track. Behind them, my Aunt Ruth and Uncle Miles, filed in with expressions people reserve for interventions and estate sales. Sweetheart, Mom sang, already scanning the room as if inventorying it. We didn't want to waste the day stuck in traffic. I stared at the key in her hand, the spare I'd given her 2 years ago, back when I still believed emergencies were the only reason someone would enter your home uninvited. Hey, Zach said, flopping onto my couch like a cat that doesn't live here. He plucked up a controller. Babe, she's got a PS5. Mia wandered through the living room with her phone, slow and appraising. This light is everything. Dad set his laptop on my coffee table. We thought some data might reduce the emotion, he said. As if emotion were mold one should bleach. I swallowed whatever my face was about to do. We agreed on noon. And it's 11:15, Aunt Ruth soothed. We figured you wouldn't mind. We're family. That last word hummed like a guilt-tuned fork. I closed the oven, turned off the playlist, and said, shoes off. They didn't hear me. They were already dispersing, an efficient crew dividing a map. Mom moved to the kitchen. Spices by color is cute, but you'll never find cumin when you need it. She started rearranging my cabinets. I watched the cumin relocate and felt my lungs relocate with it. Dad opened his laptop to reveal a title slide, Space Utilization in Modern Living. He beamed like a professor. I drafted projections comparing one adult's needs versus a growing family's. Uncle Miles nodded in solemn agreement. We all tighten our belts sometimes. Exactly, Aunt Ruth chimed. My generation understood sacrifice. Ryan texted, nail it down, babe. Boundaries. But my phone was a stone at the bottom of a lake. I tried to recenter us. Here's what I offered. Help finding a bigger place and $1,000 toward a deposit that's reasonable and kind. What's not reasonable is... Mia drifted past me, out of the conversation, toward my bedroom. Is acting like my life is a storage unit you can rent by asking loudly. I followed her. Mia, what are you doing? She was in my closet with her flashlight on, checking the depth like a contractor. This would be perfect for the changing station, she said, measuring with the flat edge of her phone case. Crib goes here, glider there. She tapped my shirts. You don't need this much space for clothes you never wear. I stood under the closet light and felt a thin thread in me snap with so little sound that for a second I thought I imagined it. Out, I said. Mia blinked, then gave me a smile that wasn't a smile. Don't be dramatic. Mom said you'd come around. In the living room, Dad launched his slideshow. Bullet points marched like soldiers. Square footage efficiency. Commute considerations. Psychological benefits of minimalism. A bar graph suggested I would flourish in a studio like a fern in indirect sun. Also, Mom added, now measuring my office walls with the tape she'd conjured from her purse, Renee can do wonders with vertical storage. She has a Thursday opening, 2 p.m. We'll be here. You will not, I said. Sweetheart, Mom's voice softened the way a blade gleams. You're making this adversarial. We're trying to help plan. I breathed in through my nose, out through my mouth, like my therapist taught. Planning someone else's life is not help. It's control. Mia sighed. Everything's control with you. Maybe loosen your grip. On my home? I asked. On your ego, Dad corrected, tapping his trackpad. A photo of my floor plan filled the screen with cheerful labels. Nursery, primary, shared living. My office had been renamed Community Workspace. Uncle Miles gestured at the slide. See, communal. That's beautiful. I looked at the word shared printed over my desk, the place I paid for with migraines and late nights, and said very quietly, no. Mom's eyes swam. I don't recognize the girl I raised. Ruth murmured, she's overwrought. I found my own voice standing somewhere behind me, hands on my shoulders. The offer is $1,000 toward your deposit and every Saturday free to help you search, I said to Mia. That's the offer. It doesn't include my deed. Mia straightened, her smile caramelizing. I knew you resented me. I resent that I'm a plan instead of a person, I answered. It's different. Silence for half a second, then Dad snapped his laptop closed. Let's go, he said to the room, a general abandoning a hill he couldn't take. This is going nowhere. It could have ended there. It didn't. At the door, Mia turned. Fine, but I already booked Renee. Leave the key under the mat. She gave the line a bright, performative shrug like a sitcom punchline. No, I said again. She rolled her eyes at me like a teenager, then aimed the look at Mom. We have Mom's key. The look they shared was a blueprint, not a look. That was the moment I decided about the locks. They left in a fog of long suffering and righteousness. Zach, sliding past, whispered, So, if you're moving, like, What's the plan for the PS5? I closed the door. Then I leaned my forehead against it until the cool wood took some of the heat back. After they were gone, I called Renee, the designer whose name kept getting waved like a pass. Her voice was brisk, professional. When I explained, she went quiet, then mortified. "I'm so sorry," she said. "We were told you'd asked us to do this surprise. I'll refund Mia's deposit and make a note." "Thank you," I said. "Also, just so I'm clear, no one is allowed into my apartment unless I'm here and I say yes." "Of course," she said, and I could hear the line she added to her career's private policy. "Ask more questions when mothers call." The locksmith came that afternoon, as I told you. He changed the deadbolt and the handle and gave me 3 keys and a look that said, "You aren't the first." When he left, I held the keys in my palm, proof of sovereignty, and felt my heartbeat ease 1 notch. Then the fallout began to gather like stormlight. Building management emailed about a request from your family to add Mia and Zach to my lease. They'd asked about a family transfer policy. There was no such thing. I replied with a paper trail. Do not permit access. Do not discuss my account with anyone but me. Do not accept keys from anyone but me. I CC'd my lawyer because, yes, by then I had one, and my future self. At dusk, the hall camera caught Mia and a stranger trying a fan of keys. 10 minutes of trying, whispering, jiggling, and then leaving with theatrical exasperation. I saved the clip to 3 separate folders. That night, the family group chat bloomed poisonous flowers. James refused to let the designer in, Mom wrote. She still typed my brother's name into the fury of her phone, a Freudian slip that made me feel both erased and free. $200 wasted. Dad added, "Your mother hasn't stopped crying." Ruth chimed in. "We're all so disappointed, Tess." I typed, deleted, typed again. In the end, I sent only, "Do not come to my home uninvited. Future contact about housing will go through my attorney." 10 seconds later, "Attorney?" from Dad, like a scoff in text form. "Over family?" "Over criminal trespass," I replied, hand steady. It should have de-escalated. It didn't. The next morning, then came the Facebook event. Help MIA move into her new home. My address, bold as a dare. 23 RSVPs in an hour. I commented under my own name, so nobody could say I was subtweeting. "This is my apartment. Mia is not moving in. Do not come here." The event disappeared, and the screenshots spread like dandelion fluff. Ryan came over with bagels and a quiet ire I recognized from the mirror. "You don't owe anyone more explanation," he said. "You showed your work. They chose not to read it." I nodded. He kissed my temple. When he left, I stood in my office and ran my hand along the desk's edge as if it were a rail on a ship in rough water. The plant in the corner had unfurled a new leaf overnight. It glowed like a small green flag. On Monday, the quiet arrived, the too quiet I told you about. It made the hairs on my arms lift. I checked the camera feeds twice, 3 times. Nothing. The air before the storm is always the cleanest air you'll breathe. Tuesday, my cousin Paige sent a text. "You good? Heard rumblings. Love you." I sent her the clip of Mia at the door and the slide titled Community Workspace. She replied with a skull emoji, then, "If they try anything, call 911 first. Explanations later." Wednesday came with that manager email. Thursday came with Pinterest swatches I didn't ask for and a caption I refused to read. Friday arrived. Bright, ordinary, almost kind. And then, at 10:06 a.m., a message from Dad. "We're coming by next week to get started. Leave the key under the mat." The room went very still. I felt the week tighten like a rope. "No," I said, to the empty apartment, to the air that carries promises and threats alike. I said it like a vow this time. The words sat between my ribs, bracing the structure. What I didn't know yet was that next week was a decoy. The plan had a timetable of its own, and it was measured in rental hours and locksmith minutes. The quiche I never served was still in my fridge. I threw it away that afternoon. Some things don't get reheated. There's a stillness that happens before betrayal, a hush so complete it tricks you into believing maybe the worst has passed. That's how it felt in the days after the intervention. Emails unanswered, group chats quiet, no posts from Mia, not even a guilt text from Mom. For almost 2 weeks, the silence felt like peace. Then I learned that peace and planning make the same sound from far away. It was a Thursday morning. I was working from the company office that day. First time all week. Around 11:30, my phone buzzed. A text from my downstairs neighbor, Kevin. "Hey, Tess, moving day already? U-Haul and all." My blood went cold. I typed fast. "I'm not moving. What are you talking about?" He sent a photo. My apartment building in the background, sunlight flashing off the windshield of a U-Haul parked at the curb, and behind it, my parents' silver SUV. My body moved before thought did. Laptop closed, heart pounding. I told my boss I had a family emergency and flew down the stairs. The 20-minute drive back to my building felt like hours, each red light a fresh betrayal. When I turned onto my street, the scene hit me like a punch. The U-Haul was open, half unloaded. Inside, boxes labeled baby room, a white crib frame, bins of toys, a rocking chair wrapped in plastic. Beside the truck stood my parents, Mia, Zach, and two men I didn't recognize, burly, impatient, like hired movers waiting on orders. And there, at my front door, a man in a denim jacket was kneeling with a toolkit. A locksmith. I parked crooked, jumped out, and started recording on my phone before I'd even shut the door. My voice shook but stayed clear. "Hi. Yes, I need police. My family is attempting to break into my apartment. I'm the legal owner." The dispatcher asked for my name and address. I gave both. My hand was trembling so hard the phone rattled. By the time I crossed the courtyard, the locksmith had a key blank in the slot, testing the cylinder. "Stop!" I said, loud enough to echo off the walls. "Do not touch that lock." They all froze, a half scene caught between motion and guilt. Mom turned first, voice sugary and brittle. "Tessa, perfect timing. We were just breaking into my home?" Dad stepped forward, palms out. "We were helping, sweetheart. The locksmith was called because you forgot to leave the key." "Forgot?" I repeated. "You mean refused?" The locksmith looked between us, confused. "Wait, you're the tenant?" "I'm the owner," I said, holding up my ID. "They do not have permission to enter." He backed away immediately. "Then I'm done here, not getting in the middle of a family thing." "Good choice," I muttered. Mom's face crumpled into tears on cue. "You're overreacting. We just wanted to set up the nursery while you were at work. It's a surprise." I laughed. It came out sharper than I meant. "Surprise? Like burglary?" Dad's voice hardened. "Don't dramatize. We've invested time and money." "Time and money?" I snapped. "You mean my address? My building? My name on the mortgage?" Mia, already crying, rubbed her stomach for emphasis. "You're stressing me out, Tess. That's dangerous for the baby." Zach, leaning against the truck, chimed in with perfect cluelessness. "The truck's only rented until 4, so can we just move this along?" I turned the camera on him. "You can start by moving yourselves off my property." Then came the police siren in the distance, a sound that for once made me feel safe. 2 officers arrived, hands calm, professional. I explained everything, showing my lease, my ID, the cease and desist letter I'd already sent weeks ago. My family, in a last-ditch effort, tried to paint it as a misunderstanding. "We thought she'd agreed," Mom insisted. "We have it in writing." She pulled a folded envelope from her purse. Inside was a printed rental agreement, dated 3 weeks out, listing Mia as tenant and me as landlord for $500 a month. My name was signed at the bottom, except it wasn't my signature. "You forged my name?" I whispered. Dad stammered. "We were going to tell you." "Officer," I said, my voice shaking, "please add that to your report." One of the cops took the paper, looked it over, and frowned. "Ma'am, this could be considered attempted fraud." That's when the situation took an unexpected turn. One of the hired movers, nervous since the cops showed up, started edging away. When an officer asked for ID, the man mumbled, then bolted. He didn't make it far. Turns out he had an outstanding warrant for unpaid child support. They arrested him on the spot. The second man paled. "I didn't know this was illegal eviction," he said, backing toward his truck. "I'm just a relocator. You pay me cash, I move your stuff, I'm out." He left before anyone could stop him. The officers gave my parents a choice: leave now or be arrested for trespassing. Mom sobbed about destroying the family. Dad ranted about choosing property over blood. Mia clutched her belly and whispered something about how she'd already told everyone she was moving here and how humiliating this was. "Good," I said quietly. "Be humiliated. Maybe that's the only way you'll stop." The officers escorted them out, slowly, like they were deflating. The U-Haul remained half full, the crib sticking out like a white flag. When the courtyard was empty again, I finally exhaled. My hands were shaking so hard I had to brace them on the counter. I closed the door, locked it, my lock, and sank to the floor, the sound of the deadbolt sliding home louder than any apology they could ever offer. Later that night, I found an envelope taped to my door, the same rental agreement, plus a note in Mom's handwriting. Tessa, we thought this would be fair. You can stay with us until you find something smaller. Love, Mom and Dad. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Then I slipped it into a file folder labeled Evidence. By midnight, I'd emailed my lawyer every photo, every clip, every message. His response came back fast. You're doing everything right. Keep documenting. This is now harassment and attempted fraud. Next step, restraining order. I closed my laptop and looked around my apartment. Every piece of furniture suddenly felt heavier, like it was clinging to me the way I'd clung to it. The plant by the window was wilting again. I watered it with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Outside, a light rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady, the kind of rain that erases chalk, rinses streets clean, but never quite gets the smell of smoke out of the air. Somewhere out there, I imagined my family driving home in silence, U-Haul, half empty, plans half dead. But I knew them. I knew silence wasn't surrender, it was plotting. I poured myself a glass of water, stared at the reflection of my own tired eyes, and whispered a promise I hadn't made before. This is mine. You don't take what's mine. The next morning, the harassment began again. Texts, guilt calls, relatives piling on. Aunt Ruth, how could you call the police on your pregnant sister? Uncle Miles, money changes people. Mom, I don't have a daughter anymore. I muted the chat, then blocked them all. For the first time in months, my phone was quiet. But I also knew that quiet in my family was never peace. It was the sound of round 2 loading. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't sleep off. It sits in your bones like wet sand, heavy, granular, impossible to shake. That's where I was after the U-Haul debacle. I thought that calling the police, changing the locks, and hiring a lawyer would finally teach them boundaries. Instead, they turned the word boundary into a battle cry. For about a week, I lived in wary quiet. I worked, cleaned, and took long walks at sunset just to convince myself the world outside my apartment still existed. Ryan would stop by most evenings with takeout, and we'd pretend to watch a movie while my mind drifted somewhere darker, to locksmiths, fake signatures, and Facebook posts I didn't dare open. Then the deliveries started. Monday, 3 large pizzas, cash on delivery. Tuesday, 20 cupcakes from a bakery I'd never ordered from. Wednesday, a mountain of Amazon boxes, all addressed to me, none actually mine. By Thursday, my email inbox had over 100 newsletter subscriptions. Everything from baby gear to parenting tips to expecting mom support groups. It wasn't random, it was warfare by 1,000 small annoyances. Then came the Craigslist ad. Free PS5. First come, first serve. My phone nearly melted from calls and texts. I turned the evidence over to my lawyer. It's harassment, he said, matter of fact. You're doing the right thing documenting everything. But then, on Friday morning, an envelope arrived by certified mail. Inside, printed on legal letterhead, plaintiffs, Gary and Diane Carter, and Mia Carter. Defendant, Tessa Monroe. Claims, emotional distress, breach of verbal contract, unlawful eviction, damages related to moving truck rental and storage fees. Requested relief, $15,000 and transfer of property title. They were suing me. I brought it straight to my lawyer. He actually laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. This is the most absurd case I've seen in years, he said, flipping through the pages. There's no contract, no tenancy, and no grounds for emotional distress. This will be dismissed before lunch. Still, it hit me in the gut. My own parents had filed a lawsuit against me. When Ryan came over that night, I showed him the papers. He stared at the pages for a long time, silent. You have every right to protect yourself, he said finally. Just make sure you're protecting your peace, too. I don't even know what that means anymore, I said. He reached across this table and took my hand. It means you stop apologizing for wanting your life to be yours. The hearing came 3 weeks later. The judge barely let my mother finish her opening statement before shaking his head. This case is frivolous, he said. It's an abuse of the court's time. Dismissed. But my lawyer wasn't finished. He filed a countersuit, harassment, trespassing, attempted fraud, and defamation. And that's when things finally began to crack open. During discovery, Mia's text messages were subpoenaed. The plan spelled itself out in her own words, messages between her and Zach's mother. Once we're in, he won't kick family out. He's too soft. After a year, we'll have rights. He can just keep paying the mortgage. It'll be our place eventually." Her mother had responded, "Smart girl. He's always been the responsible one." When the judge read those texts aloud, the courtroom went so silent you could hear the HVAC hum. My parents' faces drained of color. Mom whispered, "Mia," like the name was an apology she'd just remembered to say. The fraud charge for the fake lease and forged signature stuck. Mia got probation and community service. My parents received 12 months probation each as co-conspirators. Harassment was proven, thanks to every receipt and timestamp screenshot. Trespassing was downgraded to a formal warning but stayed on record. Defamation, the family Facebook smear campaign, got dismissed, but the damage was already done. The judge awarded me $7,500 in damages plus all legal fees. When the gavel came down, the sound felt less like victory and more like the last nail in a coffin I hadn't wanted to build. Outside the courthouse, Mom tried to speak to me. "Tessa, please." "Don't," I said quietly. "Every word from you is a spark. I'm done burning." She cried. Dad turned away, jaw clenched. Mia didn't look up. I walked past them, into the sharp afternoon light, and for the first time in months, breathed air that didn't feel borrowed. But freedom comes with aftermath. Extended families started backpedaling, quietly deleting their disappointed posts. Aunt Ruth removed an entire Facebook thread. Uncle Miles unfriended half the family. Only Paige messaged me. "You did it. Finally. I'm proud of you." I thanked her. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat in my quiet apartment. The silence didn't scare me anymore. It was mine again. Still, I couldn't help wondering what peace looked like on their end. Paige answered that a week later with a text. "FYI, Mia and Zach moved back in with your parents. It's chaos. Her baby stuff's everywhere. Zach's band practices in their garage. Mom says it's driving her insane." I almost laughed. Karma had a sense of irony so sharp it could cut glass. But this wasn't the end. Not yet. Because just when I thought the final act had closed, the story rewrote itself again. This time with a twist I never could have scripted. It started with a phone call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice said softly, "Tessa, this is Marianne Moreno, Zach's mom. We need to talk." And with that, the storm began to shift one last time. I didn't know what to expect from Marianne Moreno. Zach's mother? A trap? A guilt trip? Another lecture about family unity? But her voice over the phone was soft, hesitant, not defensive, almost embarrassed. "I'm sorry for calling out of nowhere," she said, "but this is about Mia and Zach, and I think you deserve to know what's been going on." We met at a small cafe on the edge of town, the kind with real ceramic mugs and the smell of baked bread floating through every corner. She looked tired, like someone who'd been holding her breath for too long. She started talking before the coffee even cooled. "I didn't believe the stories about the apartment," she said. "Zach told us you'd offered it willingly, that you changed your mind because your boyfriend didn't like Mia." I almost laughed. "Ryan's not in the habit of controlling me." "I know that now." She pulled a folded sheet of paper from her purse, bank statements. "Tessa, Zach hasn't been working part-time at a vape shop. He's been full-time at his uncle's construction company for 2 years. He's been lying to all of us." I blinked, not processing. Why would he? Because he's been saving money to move to Los Angeles. He told Mia they were broke, told me they were struggling. Meanwhile, he's been putting away every paycheck in a separate account, $23,000. My stomach turned. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. He was going to leave once the baby came, said he couldn't handle it, that he'd start over out west with his band." She sighed, fingers trembling around the mug. "I feel responsible. I enabled him. I wanted to believe he was just immature." I stared at the bank statements, disbelief flickering into bitter recognition. Every person in that saga had been playing someone, even each other. "I thought you should know," she said quietly. "I've already told Mia." That part hit me like a thunderclap. "You what?" She needed to know what kind of man she built her future on. I thanked her, took the papers, and handed them to my lawyer that same afternoon. He was stunned. "This isn't just personal betrayal," he said. "It's financial deception that affects their settlement. Good timing. You may have just saved yourself months of trouble." Within a week, the fallout reached me through Paige, my ever-reliable inside line. "Mia found out," she texted. "He's gone. He packed what was left of his stuff and left your parents' house. She's filing for child support. Your parents are drowning in bills. Tyler, sorry, Zach, blocked everyone." It should have felt like revenge, but it didn't. It just felt quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm finally realizes it can't hurt you anymore. In the months that followed, everything settled into a strange new shape. The lawsuit was dismissed completely. My countersuit stood firm, $7,500 in damages, plus full legal fees. They had 6 months to pay. My restraining orders were approved. 2 years of silence, by law, not just by choice. Mom sent one last letter through my attorney. 3 pages of nostalgia, guilt, and deflection. "The family isn't the same without you," she wrote. "We miss you. We forgive you." Forgive me. I read it once, then dropped it in the shredder. Sometimes closure isn't a door slam, it's a soft, mechanical hum and confetti made of everything that used to hurt you. Meanwhile, my life expanded again. Work promoted me to project manager. I started therapy, not for crisis management, but for healing. Ryan and I grew steadier, quieter. We cooked dinner more, argued less, laughed about small things again. His ex, Kelsey, eventually stopped posting veiled jabs about people who forget family values. I muted her long ago. One night, Ryan brought home takeout and a new plant for my office. "You said the last one died," he teased. "This one will live," I said, and I meant it. I rearranged my office that weekend. Same desk, same sunlit window. But this time, I put a framed photo on the wall, me standing on the balcony the day I got the keys, face bright with pride and disbelief. Proof of the life I built and rebuilt. Every now and then, I think about my niece. Mia had a baby girl, born healthy, according to Paige. I haven't met her, but I did something Mia will never know. I opened a trust fund in the baby's name. Small, but real. It'll sit there quietly, growing until she turns 18. Sarah, or Mia in this version, won't know it exists until it's hers alone. It's my way of saying, I won't punish a child for her parents' mistakes, but I won't let those mistakes into my home again either. Sometimes family is who you're born with. Sometimes it's who you choose. And sometimes the only way to love them is from far enough away that they can't reach your door with a locksmith. A few weeks ago, Paige sent me one last update. Mia's still with Mom and Dad. The house is chaos. Baby toys everywhere. Zach's old guitar collecting dust in the garage. Mom's retired early to help. Dad's working overtime. No one talks about the lawsuit anymore. I read it, then deleted it. Some stories don't need an epilogue. Now, when I wake up, the first thing I see is the morning light spilling across my office. My plant's alive. My walls are mine. My quiet is mine. And when I think of everything they tried to take, I realize they failed. Not because I fought them, but because I finally chose myself. My apartment, my peace, my life. I'm free.